everybody, welcome back into Cherry Picking. Today's video, buy low, sell high for week 13 of the fantasy hockey season. Happy New Year to everybody. As always, the video is presented by FanDuel Canada, North America's #1 sportsbook. World Juniors still going on right now, getting down to the wire. You can bet on that on FanDuel Canada, as well as every NHL market imaginable. Best place to be betting the NHL this season as well. Today's video, buy low, sell high. We have 3 players to sell high on, 3 players to buy low on. Definitely some good ones here, some kind of hidden stats, hidden gems. I think that will definitely help your guys' fantasy team in the long run, especially if you make some trades and get some guys off your team. So let's get into it. All right, so the first guy we're going to be selling high on is Werenski on the Columbus Blue Jackets. Definitely probably going to get some flack for this one, but a couple reasons why I think he's a good sell high candidate at this point of the season. Columbus has been one of the best offensive teams at home this year, if not the best. However, the one thing you got to look at is they're certainly scoring way above expectation. I think we'll see Columbus regress offensively. They're still a bottom 3 team defensively in the NHL. So I think his plus minus is only going to get worse. If you look at where the offense is coming from for Columbus as well, it's really coming from one line. And it's that top line of Sean Monahan, Dmitry Voronkov, another guy that if you have on your team in like a deep league, I would look at trying to sell high because he's absolutely on fire right now with like a 20% shooting percentage over his last, I want to say, month and a half of hockey. But that is really the main and sole line that is creating the offense. Some of the younger guys on Columbus are certainly playing well in bursts, but I don't think it's consistent enough to say this team is going to continue to score at this rate at home or just in general as well. So Werenski is going to be, I guess, the reverse beneficiary of a Columbus team that's going to regress offensively. If you look at where his points have come from as well, 29 of his 39 points have come in his last 23 games. So since November 11th, he has the 9th most points in the NHL. So we're getting Werenski's value at his peak right now, his absolute peak, especially if you look at the last 3 to 4 years. And as horrible as this sounds, like, when is he going to get hurt? Because he gets hurt every single year. Like, it's wishful thinking to think he's not going to get hurt at this point. So if you have him on your team and you've kind of benefited from this great stretch of hockey that he's been on, as well as Columbus too, I think it's a great time to kind of sell high on Werenski. All right, so the first guy we're going to be buying low on is Valeri Nichushkin on the Colorado Avalanche. I don't think we've really missed the boat on Val yet in terms of buying low on him because he's still only 60% rostered at this point in Yahoo Fantasy Hockey Leagues. He's playing on the first line with McKinnon and Lehkonen, playing on that top power play as well. I think this is where some of his buy low ability comes into play here because he has just 2 power play goals on the season so far. I'll kind of contradicted myself a little bit here after what I said with Werenski because Val can certainly be in a similar bracket in terms of not being able to play a full season, whether it be his health or off-ice issues. You know, last year he was in the NHLPA Players Assistance Program as well, but he's played some really good, inspiring hockey since he's been back this season. Since November 11th, he's 26th in individual expected goals for, but has played like 3 or 4 games less than the players that you're going to see above him on that list. And remember, he's playing with Nathan MacKinnon, who's having another MVP type season. You know, I think in my last video, I talked about Lehkonen being a buy low, and at that point, I think he was. But right now, for a lot of people who don't know, Nichushkin is playing on that top power play line, something that Lehkonen is not playing on, which gives, I think, Nichushkin the bump to be like the premier buy low candidate on the Colorado Avalanche at this point. I know you could look at his stats, 22% shooting percentage is relatively high. Last year, he was right around 18 to 19% for a good chunk of the season. He's an elite scorer, a physical forward who has an elite shot. He really reminds me of a guy like Alexander Radulov. I think this is a good time to kind of buy low on Nichushkin and a lot of Colorado players because they're making a ton of moves, whether it be in net. They just traded for Husso Parssinen as well. Not that that's going to move the needle a ton, but they're clearly gunning for the playoffs again, knowing that their window is kind of running out here in Colorado. All right, another guy we're going to sell high on, Brandon Hagel on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Certainly having his breakout season thus far, but I think at this point it's hard to say that it's hard for me to believe that he's going to continue on this pace. And it could bite me in the ass, considering Tampa is one of, if not the best offensive team in the NHL. Like, if you look at market ratings, they continue to be put in the top 5, and at points of the season, they've been number 1. But I don't think that's really mainly because of Brandon Hagel. It's probably because of the guys he's playing around. And for one, Hagel's been an awesome 5-on-5 player since he's been in Tampa. Obviously, his role got elevated this year offensively, but if you look at his opportunities on the first power play, on the second power play, whichever it had may been, He only has 5 power play points on the season with 0 goals. He's currently playing on that second line with Anthony Cirelli and Geeky. Even with Gensel out, he's not getting like a ton of tread on that top line as well, which is a little concerning, but also makes sense. Obviously, that second line is playing well. You don't want to just completely take that away, considering Gensel is probably going to be back at any time now. He's rocking a 19% shooting percentage. He had a 22% shooting percentage in 2022 in 55 games played with Chicago. Other than that, his highest full season shooting percentage has been right around 17%. So I think we're going to see some regression. His shot total isn't super high as well, like 85 to 90 shots, 34 games into the season. So I think at this point, you're seeing Hagel at his top value, time to sell high. All right, the second guy we're buying low on in this video is Carter Verhaeghe on the Florida Panthers. Through 38 games so far this season, just 9 goals, 18 assists. And I think the most staggering thing about Verhaeghe at this point of the season is he's a minus 20, even though like Florida's been playing very well, which is shocking, very shocking, and definitely a little bit concerning if you are going to buy low on him. But to be honest, like Verhaeghe is a guy you can kind of buy low on with if you have Hagel, maybe like a 1-for-1 swap, add in a little bit of a sweet piece there to get Verhaeghe and maybe a draft pick or like some other need you need on your team. But we're looking at Verhaeghe's lowest shooting percentage of his career at about 8%. He's never been below 14% in like a full season. His shooting talent above average, according to Money Puck, is 14%, which is pretty high. That's up with like some of the better goal scorers in the NHL. And you could see that with how he's played in seasons past, right? Like last 2 seasons, 34 and 42 goals. His goals above shooting talent this season is -6. So he's definitely due for some positive regression. He's still playing on that first power play. Maurice has him playing in an interesting role right now, considering he's on the third line with Bokovist and Anton Lundell. However, playing with Anton Lundell isn't the worst thing right now. I think over the past year and a half, he's proved that he can be a pretty solid center in this league. Maybe not to the likes of like Alexander Barkov, but maybe in a couple years he can get to somewhere around that level. I think that's what a lot of Florida Panthers fans are kind of hoping for. You got to think he's going to bounce back. As I mentioned, his -20 is crazy to see. He's never finished since his first season in the NHL with a negative plus minus. Every year with Florida, he's been at least a +10. This is going to be a playoff team, going to be charging for a top spot in that Eastern Conference for the rest of the season too. Verhaeghe kind of needs to get going to kind of help them out there. His shot total is still really high, 111 shots on the season. So he's still getting that volume there, still playing on that first power play. And I'm sure as he kind of gets his, finds his footing here in this season, he'll start to play top 6 minutes again, even though despite he's playing 19 minutes per game at this point. All right, the last guy we're going to be looking at to sell high, and this one's a tough one, but I think it's actually a really good spot to sell high on him, and it's Linus Ullmark on the Ottawa Senators. We've seen the goaltender struggles that Senators goalies have had over the past, I want to say 8 to 9 seasons. This is now the third time I think he's been out for a stretch of games. So injury concern is definitely a factor in terms of selling high, especially because he's coming off one of the best stretches of his career. It has to be 7-0-1, a 130 goals against, and a 956 save percentage since December 1st. Those numbers are insane, really good. But who says he can recreate this after sitting out for at least 11 to 12 days? His last start was December 22nd. Ottawa starts playing again in their more of a routine schedule on the January 2nd and 3rd. They play it back-to-back. So even if he comes back then, which I still think is probably not going to happen, is he going to be able to recreate those numbers? Because if you look at his stats for the whole season, his 12 wins, 7 losses, 2 OT losses. So 7 of his 12 wins have come in the month of December, where he was on the hottest stretch of his career season for sure. He has a 915 save percentage for the season and a 238 goals against. So that stretch that he just had has certainly boosted his numbers to where you're going to see him be one of the better fantasy hockey goalies for sure. But I think that it's definitely time to trade him. If you look at goalies who have played at least 900 minutes this year, so goalies who have roughly had about 16 to 17 starts, he's 17th out of 38 goalies in high danger save percentage at around 820, which is fine. But like you look at Vassie's got a better high danger save percentage. Philip Gustafson has a better high danger save percentage. Karel Vejmelka has a better high danger save percentage. A lot of these goalies who are having really good seasons are definitely beating him in that category. So I would look to trade him for someone like Vasilevsky, and people are going to call me crazy, but Stuart Skinner, I know everyone's throwing their hands in the air at this point when I say that, but who's going to win more games for the rest of the season, you think? Edmonton or Ottawa? I think it's going to be Edmonton. I don't think that's that crazy to say. Like Ottawa's been playing pretty solid, but if you look at that stretch of when they were winning a ton of games, it's mainly because of Linus Ullmark. So can he just put the team on his back for the rest of the season? I don't want to bank on that. Sell high on him when he's at his absolute peak value. And the last guy that we're going to buy low on, Timo Meier on the New Jersey Devils. So far through the season, 38 games played, 13 goals, 14 assists. So not as bad as, let's say, like Carter Verhaeghe, but he's not been able to score at the same rate that we've seen him in years past, I want to say. Lowest shooting percentage amongst the top six. You look at a guy like Stefan Noesen, whose shooting percentage is like 19% so far to start the season, which is crazy. But he's playing with Nico Hischier and Stefan Noesen on that top line. Hischier is, to me, one of the most underrated playmakers in the NHL, and you can look directly at Nason and Meier's individual expected goals for number over the past month and a half and see why that is the case. Since November 11th, Meier's ninth in that category at 9.9 expected goals for. Nosen's second at 11.2. But I think overall, like Timo Meier is a more talented player. His shot total is high, like not as high as maybe his days in San Jose, but it's getting to a point where it's like almost in a middle, like a good middle, a happy middle between when he was playing in San Jose and being really the only goal scorer on that team during that stretch, and now a New Jersey team that really has flourished with offensive talent. Meier also, as I referenced before, his goals above shooting talent is -3 this year, so I think he's definitely due for some positive regression. He's still playing in a lot of positive offensive roles too, and I think we'll see him kind of have a mini breakout in the second half here, so I definitely try to buy low on it. All right, thank you guys for tuning in. Let me know what you thought of the buy low, sell high for week 13 of the fantasy hockey season. Be sure to drop a comment if you have any of these players and are looking like who can I trade him for if it's a buy low, who, you know, if same questions if it's for a sell high as well. Just because I don't want to try to guess who's on your team, but if you send me those questions, I will answer them. I've been pretty good at answering them over the past month or so. Shout out to FanDuel Canada for sponsoring the video. Again, Happy New Year, everyone, and see you in the next video.